My name is Maddie Wenzel, and today I'm going to be telling you about mental illness and how it's not just a phase. Have you ever thought about the difference between the way a mentally ill person views the world versus somebody who's mentally healthy? Imagine having trouble with excessive worrying that plagues your daily functioning, along with agitation, restlessness, and fatigue. This describes people who have an anxiety disorder. According to DoSomething.org, about 254 million people in the world experience an anxiety disorder. I asked in my audience analysis how many of you thought that those who are mentally ill should be refused of a right they were born with. But 66% of you had a neutral opinion on this. Would this change if I gave you a few examples? Should those who are mentally ill, like somebody who has bipolar disorder with major mood swings, be allowed to purchase and own a firearm? Should a mentally ill woman be forced to get an abortion after she is pregnant? Because of the stigma around mental illness, there was a case in the United Kingdom where a judge forced a woman to get an abortion against what she wanted, her midwife, social worker, and lawyer all wanted. The midwife had offered to take care of the child, but the judge said that it would be a heartbreaking decision, but he had to do it. I also asked if you would view somebody differently once you found out they had a mental disorder. 54% of you said that it would mildly change the way you viewed this person. Would this change your mind if you knew more about mental illness and the circumstances those mentally ill people go through? Today, I'm going to be talking about the issue and the rise of mental illness, the solution we can provide, and the future it could bring us. Even though it's hard for us to change our mindsets, we need to be open with this ongoing issue, and we have to recognize that we need to have better solutions and more resources for our community. So I'm going to begin with the issue and how it began. In recent years, there's been a significant growth in the realm of mental illness. According to Pew Research Center, there's been an increase in mental illness cases among adolescents and young adults. These reasons could possibly include poverty, as they are not able to afford the care they need, social media, as it has high expectations. For example, skinny is typically equivalent with beauty, and this could cause somebody to go and have an eating disorder in order to lose weight as quickly as they can. There's also substance abuse and dysfunctional home lives that contribute to mental illnesses. This group is specifically targeted because they've had the most growth and changed their culture, especially because of the technology advances in both medicine and social media. There's been extensive research that compares the same age groups from different times in order to compare numbers as to figure out why the young generation has reported so many cases, mood orders to be specific. This graph shows the most common disorders that people have, anxiety, depression being one of the first, and depression being the second. These ones are the most common amongst these young adults and adolescents. Now let's talk about the stigma surrounding mental illness. According to BetterHealth.gov, they found that people would label others, even with a minor illness, as being psychotic and avoiding them at all costs. Half the people they're labeling as psychotic have a very either minor illness or something that is not typically aggressive in behavior or has any hallucinations or delusions connected to it. The topic of mental illness is broad, and most people have a vague understanding, which makes sense as our education briefly teaches people what mental illness is and how to deal with it. Growing up, I personally never knew much about mental illness. I knew it was a thing, but I didn't know what it meant. I had an aunt who had bipolar disorder, and I noticed her mood swings, but I figured it was just her personality, and she was just like that. Later in life, I understood and I knew what she had, and I saw her differently because now I understood why she acted the way she did. This leads me to my two-part solution. First of all, we have to better educate the public on both what it means and how to deal with it. There have been multiple instances where patients don't believe that they have a mental disorder, or their parents who don't believe that their child has a mental disorder, so they don't go in and get treated. And unfortunately, mental health and physical health go hand in hand, which creates these children who aren't able to function properly. There have also been situations where students feel trapped because they don't know what to do or realize what they have, as they don't know what they're feeling and why they're feeling that way. If we better educate people, we can avoid waiting to help those who are in need of mental health treatments, which brings me to my second solution. We need to build more mental health facilities that are financially available. This here shows the youth that has mental illness and other disorders 10% have some sort of mental health issue, and then 70% of the youth in the juvenile justice system suffer from mental health disorders. This one here, again, shows the same thing, but the second point shows of teenagers, only 30% will be diagnosed and receive proper care, which is incredibly low percent, especially since it's only pertaining to teenagers and not factoring in young children as well as young adults. But we need to be able to build more mental health facilities that are financially available for everybody. The average cost to stay at a facility is anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 in a day, which can vary depending on the kind of treatment you're looking for, whether it's psychotherapy and further, or the type of disorder they're trying to treat. There are many reports from people that state that treatment is too expensive for them, so they aren't able to go, or they didn't think they were bad enough to go and pay that money. According to an article from Cambridge.com, an issue that can arise from educating the public is that they may not believe either the clinician's treatment of the mental disorders or the disorder in the first place. As of now, we have over 300 mental disorders that most people find fake and that it's not real and that it's all a phase or that they're making it up for attention. It can also be difficult to implement the interventions of these patients if they don't believe in them. In order to try and prevent this, educating and walking people step by step through these processes and explaining the structure of everything is incredibly important. People don't believe in what they don't understand. So avoiding these questions and using suspicious treatments is crucial. If we began to build these facilities, there would be a huge rise in cases as those who needed help are now being able to afford this help. This brings a couple of questions. Is this going to overload the more affordable clinics as people go, now that they are able to afford it? And this also poses the question, are these people who are going to these more expensive systems going to go to these ones that are more financially affordable? And this would have to be regulated as competing prices. That's always something in the medical field, as medical treatment is extremely expensive. And then, of course, yes, it's going to be busy in the beginning because they're being bombarded with patients, but as long as we, make sure to help these, families who are more poor first, we can start to even that out. And then another question is, how are we going to be able to get all these professionals to work in these clinics? And my thought is that now that there are so many other medical professions that are in low demand and have low turnover, this now opens up an entire new job market for those who need a job, and maybe our unemployment will decrease a little bit. And those people who are interested in psychology and stuff like that can, help those families in need. And then, by discussing the issue of the rise of mental health cases, the solution we can provide, and the future it would bring, I hope I have opened your eyes to the danger of leaving this issue unresolved. Mental illness is not something that only affects the person who has it, but our society overall. Don't let the thought of a mental illness scare you. Instead, go out and help your community. Any questions?